I think let's go back. Well, right before this thing broke, we're like the rest of you, we kind of watched it. And back in January, I took alarm to it pretty early. And so we started doing a lot of research. Keith and I, our weekend gigs, Keith more so than me, we've got some access to people. So I started taking advantage in talking to some of the National Guard medics that are frontline medics at San Bernardino County, at Mateo, County, San Francisco, city of San Francisco, and seeing what the frontline people were doing. And then we started talking to doctors, medical director for San Bernardino County Sheriff's for the Mountain Rescue Team. We started talking to RNs. We started talking to ER doctors. We started talking to chemical manufacturers. And one of the things that was evident really quickly was that this little bug, this little nasty virus, was something that we, here in the States, it's happened in other spots. So by the time that this thing hit us and California went into lockdown, I had some great answers, but unfortunately, I had the IDA, members of the IDA, and just my own desire was to come up with an SOP, standard operating procedure that would allow operators to go in safely and still conduct business and maybe even take and work our way through this where it was a good thing for detailers. Unfortunately, through our studies and through all the people that we contacted, is we quickly found out that we as detailers just really, most of us, 90+%, probably far greater than that, just aren't ready to tackle this thing. One of the key things that we came through that an ER nurse of mine, a friend of mine said was, Renny, even if you cure it out of the car, even if you cleanse it out of the car, in the event that the person has it, it's going to be reintroduced back into the car almost immediately. And so while you could even take care of it if you could, the fact is it's going to be back in there. The bug's going to be back in there again. And right then and there, I just realized that, the answer I wanted to deliver wasn't going to happen. And that is that, are we essential? We can be, as Keith noted. Unfortunately, I think that what we're seeing is that we're seeing reactions to people is that, when you tell them that they're going to have to shut down business, is that's a hard thing for many people. The other thing that I was shocked at was how many people that, especially successful people that we all know, 6 days in are already financially destroyed. I think that told me right then and there that our industry wasn't quite as sophisticated as we had hoped, and that people weren't listening as we hoped. The other thing that was kind of sad from my standpoint is that we've made inroads with big industries, not outside of detailing, that can have an influence on us as detailing by pulling us into their world. We just completely destroyed some of the viewpoints that many of us have been trying to make for the last 10 years, because instead of coming together, is a small percentage of the industry decided to turn against itself, get really ugly, and go back to a gypsy mentality. And it set us back. And I'm heartbroken. I haven't deleted any friends, because I'm hoping that some of those that got ugly will learn and mature. And if they don't, then I'll make that decision later. But, my business is shut down. We actually shut it down before, because knowing, Keith will tell you, associated with the military, I've had just enough training at this kind of stuff to be really dangerous. And I'll tell you what, when they put you in that monkey suit, all that mop gear, and you have to put your breathing apparatus on, and they come up and they pump this little thing around you, and it smells like rottenest eggs you've ever smelled, and you can still smell it through your mask, and it takes you 2 or 3 times to get it on right, you don't know what the hell you're doing. Yeah. And, a little plastic thing right here and some black gloves, and your arms exposed and your ears and your eyes exposed, and you're wearing the same clothes home that you just did, or you're wearing the same clothes from home, getting into a car, you're either going to be part of the solution or you got to be a part of the problem. And my standpoint was simple, is that most of us are going to be part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Yeah.
The whole steaming thing, the whole ozonator thing, all this craziness, is we can package that eventually when this ends. we can start packaging all these things into a package to where we can respond as an industry next time and be part of somewhat of a solution. But right now, we're just behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, and I would say even if we have the solution, Renny, which I think we're all going to work toward, you know, the reality is if people are contaminated and they get back in a vehicle, we're not solving anything. And so even at that, even if everybody had all the PPE they needed, had all the training they needed, had all the materials they needed to kill this thing and could get cars perfect, the reality is, like you said, Renny, if somebody contaminated gets in it tomorrow, it's all for naught. Now, something is better than nothing, but the reality is, you know, are you still essential? If we really do the math on that, are you essential at that point? Because to my mind, the answer is no, until everybody personally is protected from it. Then we can go ahead and deal with the surfaces that are contamination. When you talk about the monkey suit, those of you who were not alive back then, or like Renny, were not in the military at that time, right after 9/11, or not 9/11, sorry, first Gulf War, with all the scuds going in. One of the things the military really focused on, and Renny will know this a little bit, 25 years ago, we were in a Cold War combat mentality. Then the first Gulf War was a real education for us that, hey, our plan works. Our land battle doctrine works. And so we were full-fledged into training on that. And one of the big training parts of that was chemical and biological warfare. And I've done mass casualty decontamination training to the point of pain. You know, we have a joke in the Army that you are not trained until you can do it in MOP 4, in the dark, in the rain, when somebody's shooting at you. Then you know you're trained at it. And so we trained to that level. And I can tell you, I've got probably almost 1,000 hours in the chemical suits doing decontamination of injured patients. That is hard slogging work. And that's what our healthcare providers, not to that extent of the gear, but are trying to work through without the appropriate gear and without the appropriate materials. So if they don't have it, there's very little chance that detailers really will have it. And so I think the caution is we're not prepared for it. We don't have the tools. We don't have the materials. You are best to stay out of that lane. You know, one of the old rules of Murphy's Laws of Combat is remaining conspicuous. Conspicuous stuff gets shot, you know. And at this point, we need to be inconspicuous. We need to be planning what the next steps are. You know, guys like Renny are doing great things to say, let's put together a program on how to educate people to do aftermath. How do we come out of this? What's the exit strategy of this whole thing? And I think that's, if I were to give the industry advice, and that's, you know, Renny's really taken a lead on this tack, is how do we come out of this? And Renny's right. The business coaching is still something that's huge. Now, one of the bonuses was we did a survey with the IDA recently. And one of the big things everybody said is we don't want as much technical information anymore. When we started Third Thursdays with the IDA, their webinar series, we were 90% technical because everybody wanted technical stuff. Today, people want business coaching stuff. They realize. So unfortunately, we're not there yet, but the industry is turning in that direction, which is great. So what business coaching things are we in the industry doing? Forget the IDA. What are we as industry leaders doing? What can we do to educate people on how to come out of this? What skills, techniques, abilities should you have if you're going to go forward? And then how do we stormproof ourselves? You guys have heard me say this 3 years in a row at the State of the Industry. What are you doing? And Renny, you remember this last year. I mean, it was booming. And what did I say? When it slows down, and it will, what are you doing to stormproof yourself? And even today, you know, even this year's State of the Industry, we saw the numbers slowing down a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And so my question is, what are y'all doing to stormproof yourself? Now, this isn't a storm, guys. This is a galactic event with respect to industry and the things we're dealing with in our industry. But what are you doing to be ready for that slowdown? I don't think any of us were ready for it. You know, Renny's been telling me for years. We go out on all these road trips together for the last 4 years now. And what do we always talk about? Man, they got a great shop. But I'm really worried for them. If they're paying so much on that nut, are they going to be okay if things slow down or if things change? And so I think the business coaching, Renny, like you've been saying it for 3 years now, you know, are we helping people look for that end? things are booming and they're great. And I have every confidence that when this is done, the economy will pick up. There will be a slingshot or accordion effect where things catch back up and we get busy. But for some people who are not ready for this, it could be a disaster. And Renny, we were on a webinar the other night and somebody said, hey, but don't take on too much work, because the work's going to be there when we get done. But if you take on too much and you bury yourself and you can't fulfill it, that's as damaging to your business as, not having any work at all. So there's just a ton there to think about. And I think coming out of the back end is the big key focus right now for everybody. And, trying to make sure you survive as it is and using the resources available.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure you are subscribed to the Rag Company Podcast YouTube channel. So, at any rate, that's us, and we'll see you later. Adios.